My name's Kristin Snowden. I'm a marriage family therapist in the state of California. But this webinar today is not therapy. It is educational / discussion and support opportunities for couples or those who are struggling with betrayal trauma and trying to reconcile or repair relationships, or just simply kind of dealing with the aftermath of suffering betrayal trauma. This lecture or discussion, which is going to be about how to get through the tension and the struggling that's going on between you and your partner. This is basically for those who are just exploring or struggling with the fact that you've just recently uncovered an addiction. Maybe your partner has suffered a relapse recently, or there's been some kind of infidelity. I want to start really quick with the stages of betrayal, stages of recovery. So this is from the book, Back from Betrayal. And basically Pat Carnes kind of lays out and says that there's several stages of recovery, because I want you to kind of first understand as you're entering into these holidays, either by yourself, so as a single person, or with the person that betrayed you. I want you to kind of understand what stage that you're in. So there's the developing pre-discovery. So this is the time period before you're absolutely certain that there's a problem. So there might be some of you who are just have a suspicion that something is off, that your partner's relapsing, or there's an addiction of some kind. And you feel that you're kind of in this semi-crisis mode, trying to control the situation and fix whatever's going on. The second level is the crisis decision information gathering phase. So you become aware of the addict's secret life and experience a crisis of trust. You may compulsively check up on the addict and seek information, or you may obsess about his or her activities. This is the time period that a lot of us that are tuning into this webinar are in. Which also indicates that there's going to be a higher level of emotional reactivity going on, right? Because you just uncovered something that is shaking your world and turning it upside down. Stage 3 is shock. You experience numbness, and also anger and self-doubt, fear and conflict can be coming in between the shock. Stage 4 is grief and ambivalence. Where you experience the full emotional impact of what has happened and what has been happening. You experience intense pain, hopelessness, grief, rejection. At the same time, though, you may be experiencing ambivalence about your current relationship, because you're starting to develop an awareness and a consideration for your own needs. Because oftentimes during the information gathering phase or the suspicious phase, you're so focused in on what your partner is doing, the behaviors of your partner. How can you fix this problem? That the grief and ambivalence can kind of bring in, well, geez, what do I want from this? What's going on for me here? The other stages are the repair stage, where there's personal growth, and then the growth where you kind of make sense of what's happened, and you're not still feeling like you're a victim, which I'm assuming a lot of the people in this webinar who are watching this are not at that stage yet. So we'll just assume that you guys, those who are viewing, are mainly in stages 1 through 4. Can be a good thing if you consider them supportive and helpful and understanding of this difficult time. Or I find more clients find this to be more stressful, because they're struggling with what they should be telling their family members. And also they feel a pressure to kind of put on a facade. So they don't really want to be near their partner. They don't know what to tell their loved ones. Loved ones are suspicious that something's going on. And also something that's common is when you find out your partner's got an addiction or has betrayed you, it's not uncommon to extend the hurt and pain to his or her family, right? So maybe you see your mother-in-law and you think, oh gosh, you know, if you raised him or her right, then I wouldn't be in this terrible situation. And then that would cause obvious tension between you and that mother-in-law. So I'm just asking you to just be aware of that. Also, don't feel pressure to be sharing the information with the whole family. You should only be sharing whatever information you're comfortable with. You might even want to have a discussion with your partner about if you're on the same page about what information you should be sharing with everybody. See where, what he or she wants to share with everyone. And make sure that it's not going to be an environment where both of you are going to be judged or given unsolicited advice. Now is the time where you need to feel comfortable with setting boundaries, right? Being betrayed really, really lets you see how your boundaries have completely been destroyed. And starting with setting boundaries with the family might be kind of a safer place, less scary place to start setting up those kind of limits and non-negotiables. And, you need to come up with a soundbite. If you know you're going to be going to a family event and you foresee that this is going to be stressful, or people are going to be asking you a lot of questions, or they're going to notice you're sad and withdrawn, if you don't want to talk about it, or if that particular time and place is not the appropriate time to talk about it, I'd encourage you to just say, you know what, thank you so much for caring about me or being concerned about my situation. But I'm not quite ready to talk about it. But I can understand your desire to keep checking in with me. Thank you for making me feel loved. Feel free to keep checking in. But play around with what kind of narrative helps you, where you feel comfortable with setting that limitation. Also remember that it's important for the betrayed partners to have a support system, which is oftentimes family, but make sure that, so we don't need secret keeping and we don't need you to hide your pain or anything like that. But do be mindful of what you're going to be saying and in what environment. Are you sharing the story about what's happening in your family or with your partner because you're looking for support and love and understanding? Or are you sharing the details so they can also kind of join your team of let's all hate my partner right now for all the bad things that he or she's done? So do check your kind of motivation with Tend. Like I said, if going to your partner's family is going to be extremely triggering because right now you're kind of blaming him and everybody else, or maybe they all knew that he or she had the addiction and didn't tell you, or I don't know, but you need to really think about, are you in an emotional state where you're going to feel comfortable being in this environment? Again, this goes back to setting up boundaries. I knew someone who her husband cheated with someone at the workplace. So when they were invited for the holiday party, she didn't think it was a very good idea for them to be going to the holiday party because, as you can imagine, she was very raw from what happened and she knew that the affair partner would be there. And in order to set up healthy boundaries for herself, she said no. I know someone who was faced with that same exact scenario and decided to go because she thought it would be kind of healing and give her an opportunity for her and her husband to kind of put up a united front despite what happened. And the next step is, what are you going to talk about and what are you not going to talk about when you are with these family members and in these public settings? I think it's really important. We come up with lots of reasons not to go to our therapy appointments and go to our support groups because the holidays are busy. But I actually think that's exactly when you should be having all of these appointments scheduled, because when you're interacting with your family and your partner on a higher frequency level than usual, you're going to need to say, let's couch this issue. I'm feeling kind of a lot of anger at you right now, and I don't want to talk about it, but we will be in therapy on Wednesday, and let's talk about it then. Or I have the desire to kind of scream and rant and rave about how my partner has wronged me, but I know I have that support group tomorrow, and maybe I can use that setting to be talking about that instead of here at this family holiday dinner. So it's, as you can tell by me laying this out, this is a lot of kind of planning, anticipating, putting some safety nets in place, and also talk about it with your partner and see where he or she is. Substance use. Please remember, if you are in a heightened emotional state, a heightened emotional reactivity state, getting drunk or drinking too much or eating in excess, none of those choices are going to contribute to you feeling, to you increasing your self-esteem and your self-worth and your self-validation and value. So please be aware and mindful of your substance use. And I guess even I'm a big proponent too of watching eating habits too. You want to make healthy choices, healthy coping skills when managing this deep crisis issue. PTSD. I think I've said in lots of my betrayal trauma groups that suffering from betrayal trauma is trauma, and you often have PTSD type symptoms. So going to these events can trigger a lot of memories of, oh my gosh, last year he kept making up reasons why he couldn't come to all these events. It's because he was acting out. Or, I'd love to be buying my kids toys and things, but we can't afford it because he or she spent thousands and thousands of dollars on acting out. So just also be mindful of those memories that might sweep through you. And again, you might want to rewatch my boundaries webinar from 2 weeks ago. This is a great time when dealing with family and I guess workers and stuff to be maintaining and setting boundaries. Last thing I'm going to say is being betrayed destroys your value and self-worth, right? There's a lot of these feelings that you're valueless, that you're replaceable. How could he or she have done this to me? The gaslighting kind of turns your reality upside down and you don't know which way is what. So there's a lot of self-love and self-respect and self-esteem building that has to occur during the recovery process. So it is imperative that you make choices that contribute to higher levels of self-worth, higher levels of self-love. And so that will often, you need to understand, you need to kind of have a reckoning with yourself and with your support group and kind of do a moral inventory of what kind of behaviors and choices are going to make you feel good about yourself, who you are, and how you conduct yourself. Sometimes that includes no gossiping or talking poorly about the person just to talk poorly about them, no passive aggressive behavior, no name calling or public shaming, no violence. Mending a Shattered Heart kind of talks about some things like take care of yourself physically, emotionally, and spiritually during this time. Do show your anger, because there's nothing wrong with the fact that you're angry and you're sad and you're hurt, but do it in appropriate, productive ways and at the appropriate times. Don't share inappropriate material or information with your children and your family. Don't mouth your partner in public. Don't make the addiction or his or her betrayal about you, because it's not. It's about their own bad choices and their own, dark times. And And then for those who are single, don't use this time to go jump into another relationship or, make poor choices around your own body and sexual choices because you're in a state of hurt and pain. I can only say for me, if it was me, addiction loves secrets. So I want to live in the truth and light, but that doesn't mean that they need to know every detail. So I would just probably say something along the version of the truth, which is we're in a state of struggle right now, and we think it's best for our marriage and our family if we pass on this event. To me, it's important to not be doing any lying or hiding or manipulation. So I'm not a proponent of smiling and looking like everything's going great when your heart's broken and you're sad on the inside. So I don't believe I'm putting up a facade or a mask. But that also doesn't mean, you can't go to like the PTA holiday event and you're sad and someone's like, oh, what's going on with you? Oh, my cheating bastard husband has been a horrible dog and sleeping with, that's probably not the right place and the right time and the right information.
Yeah.
And I don't ever want you to expose yourself to a group of people where you don't feel safe, where you don't feel like they're safe, healthy people to engage in. And that's perfectly fine to set that boundary. But sometimes it's helpful to realize that, your partner was also highly invested in keeping this addiction and these bad choices and behaviors hidden from probably everyone. So your mother-in-law or father-in-law or other family members might have been just as in the dark and just as lied to and just as manipulated as you were in this whole situation. So sometimes it's helpful to kind of understand that too, that they were making decisions and choices out of half-truths and lies and other circumstances you're not aware of. Except I do work with a lot of single infidelities. And so while they don't wear the hat of an addict and the addict's making me do this, if I see a person who's committed adultery or infidelity and I see them more long-term, it'll start with a narrative of, oh, if she'd had more sex with me, or I'm just not that sexually attracted to her anymore and I really am with this person. If they hang in there long enough, I find in retrospect, most of them were about as high on the kite as someone snorting cocaine, where it may not be a chronic issue, but in that moment of infidelity, there is no rational thought. There is no talking to that person and bringing them off the cloud that they are on. They are high, thinking that like, I will do whatever I can to keep this drug in my life, even though it's at the destruction of my marriage or my children or my own personal, the fact that I value being honest and I made these vows. You're willing to just ignore all of that. And any of those personal statements that he or she might be making about their spouse is usually just to kind of relieve their own guilt and shame of, these are justifications so I can feel entitled to be doing these deeply harming behaviors and choices.
Yes. Then I don't have to take responsibility for it. It's all these other factors that are, I don't have a choice, or this is just so much better than whatever it is. So
because I think it's a great time to just sit and stop and become aware of this. What do you foresee kind of creating struggle and stress and more pain in your life? Because you need to talk about it. You need to talk about it with your support group, with your therapist and couples therapy, with your partner. But good recovery and healing always comes with a good plan and open, honest discussion and talking about this kind of stuff. So back to the boundaries thing of what I was talking about. A lot of you who are struggling in this relationship, a symptom is often that you have a hard time setting boundaries, or even with the gaslighting, you're turned upside down and you don't even know what boundaries are because your relationship has been so confusing. And like I said, family might be a little bit of a safer environment and place to kind of start to begin to commence to set these boundaries. So meaning you kind of let go of that disease to please, that desire to be that flexible, fun-loving, easygoing person, you know, pleasant, emotionally stable, whatever those words are to you. And instead be that person that says no, or doesn't go there with a big smile and everything's perfect, or where they ask questions and you say, I don't want to talk about it, thanks. You know, where you practice just kind of your needs and your boundaries trump the people pleasing. All right, take care, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye.